Evening and happy Training Tuesday. So, we are here for another Training Tuesday, and tonight's topic is how to lead without compromising your boundaries and your compassion. And there was a reason I put those two things together. And I think as we wander through tonight's training, it will start to make sense to you. But the premise is the premise of tonight's conversation is really around this idea that we want to show up as powerful leaders. We as women all have it in us to step up and be these amazing leaders, and we want that. We also understand that to be in this leadership position, it takes focus, it takes energy. We know we need that to be this powerful leader that we envision that we can be. And we also have this desire to still be liked and to still be likable. And so what I want to talk about tonight is those three components of showing up as a powerful leader, understanding the energy and focus, and having that desire to still be liked or still be likable, turning that into your superpower and strength and not a weakness. And I was trying to think of a better word than a weakness, and all I came up with was flaw, and it's not a flaw. It's a characteristic, I suppose, but it's something we can use to our benefit and to everybody else's benefit. It doesn't have to undermine us. That's what I'm thinking of. It doesn't have to undermine us. So when I was thinking about tonight's topic, right, how to lead without compromising your boundaries or your compassion, part of that came up because I know a lot of times it's hard for us to hold our boundaries, and we feel like to be able to hold our boundaries, we have to draw a hard line. We have to be a certain way. So I want to talk a little bit about that because I think there's a lot of misconceptions around what it means, right, to be the leader, to hold the boundaries, in a way that is strong, that is powerful, and yet also compassionate, kind, right? And I don't think there has to be a gap necessarily, but it's all in how we approach it. So I want to spend some time talking about the misconceptions, where it takes us, and then what do we do about it? So thank you for joining me tonight. For those of you who do not know me, or this is your first Training Tuesday, welcome. My name is Natalie Hahn. I am CEO of Dirty Girls Consulting, and you are here in our group, Accelerating Leadership for Professional Women, where we have free trainings every Tuesday night. You also get early access, early notification of master classes that we put on, coaching programs that I'm launching, and things like that. So I'm happy to have you guys here. As always, say hello in the chat, and I can see our friends are here. Joyce, Anna, and Jill, hello. It's lovely to see you guys. Thank you for joining tonight. Say hello in the chat if you're new and you haven't been here before. Say where you're from. Tell us why you're here. I like to use the chat as much as possible to make this more of a two-way conversation rather than a one-way, me just talking at you guys. So please use it. Hey, Nancy, I'm glad you're here. So use the chat because I will be asking you questions tonight. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, as I was thinking about tonight, I hope you have pen and paper. And if you don't, go grab some now. Because at the end, towards the second half of this training, the first half I want to talk about what our misconceptions are and how we get here and how this shows up. But the second part about how we really step up and shift the way that we lead so that we can lead with purpose and power, so that we have that focus and we know where we're putting our energy, and so that we still have that thread of being liked, which is really a simplistic way of simply saying showing up with kindness, compassion, and being respected, because that's really what we want, right, is to be respected. When I start putting those three together, I'm actually going to be asking you a lot of questions. There's things for you to think about, because while stepping into leadership has some tactical elements to it, things you should do, the single most powerful tool you have as a leader, it's here. And it's not how smart you are, that helps, but it's not how smart you are. It's your mindset. It's how you think about you and leadership and putting those two pieces together. So that's what we want to talk about tonight. And hey, Kathy, I'm glad you're here. And Nancy's coming in from North Carolina. All right. So good. We have people from all over the country here tonight. This is fantastic. Hi, Dawn. Good to see you. So What do you think? What do you think showing up as a powerful leader means? What does it mean to you when you think about a powerful leader? What are some of the words or characteristics that you would describe? Um, and there's no right or wrong answer to this necessarily. I'm curious more of what's in your head when you think about leadership and powerful leadership. Um, I know that on the side of some of our limiting beliefs or misconceptions, we often think by powerful leader, I have to have a very clear directive. I have to be able to tell everyone what to do. Um, Sometimes it shows up in I need to have all the answers all the time. Integrity, absolutely, Jill, right? On the positive side, what do we look for our leaders for? We look for them to speak with integrity, to act with integrity, right? They walk the walk. Whatever they say they're going to do, they actually follow through and do it. Dawn, delegate, trust employees, and listen. Oh, yes. So that's a big part of what we're going to talk about tonight. Because sometimes when we get into leadership mode, we think that we have to have all the answers. And in having all the answers, we also think that we have to tell everybody what to do because we're supposed to know because we're the boss, right? We're the leader. And that puts us into a trap where we don't delegate. And if we've come into our leadership position up through the ranks, what happens is we've done all the jobs. And so we know how to do all the jobs. And then we get really locked into this mindset of the right way to do the job, when really we've moved past that. Sometimes in leadership, especially for women, and especially if you happen to be a woman who works in a more male-dominated industry, we feel this pressure that we have to be one of the guys, that we have to start leading and behaving the way that they do. And then we have this pressure that we have to show up their way. And their way may not be natural to us, right? It really might not be our way, but we feel like that's the way you're supposed to lead. Yeah, real leaders surround themselves with people they trust to do the job. Absolutely, Anna. And that's a key part of leadership too, right? Is looking at who's around you and building those connections. See, you guys are way ahead of me. You've got all this down. When we think about energy and focus in leadership, we sometimes fall in the trap. I'm speaking again about kind of the more the misconceptions on this, right? We fall a little bit into this trap of I want to do the right thing. I want to do what's best. But if I am not feeling secure in my leadership, I default to what got me here in the first place. And what got me here in the first place is the habit. This is something that I talk about a lot when I talk about the good girl groove. One of the good girl grooves is doing what we're told. This is doing what we're told. We're so comfortable. We're so comfortable in the doing what we're told mode. Because from when we were little, we were told how to behave in order to be thought of as a nice girl, in order to be thought of as a good girl, right? We got rewarded by our parents for good girl behavior. We got rewarded at school for doing what the teacher told us. Early in our careers, we got rewarded at work for doing what our bosses wanted. And then we get put in these leadership positions, and that same mindset, we think that will work too. I just have to figure out what everybody else wants, what they expect from me. And if I can do those things, then I'm a successful leader because I'm doing the things that everybody's expecting from me. And the challenge with that is that it puts us in a reactive mode. We're not leading, we're responding. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute too, but I want you to think about that. When we set ourselves up to figure out what everybody else wants from us, everybody at work, so the whole executive team has told us what they want in that plan, in my annual plan, and then I sit down and build my plan to meet their needs. Whose plan am I building? What am I building exactly, right? We put other people's priorities first. And so we do the things we think they want us to do, and then we do them because we think they need to be done right. They should be done perfectly. They can't be screwed up. We know how to do it, so we don't delegate. And we end up with that very narrow view of how things should be done because we've done it before, so we know how. We don't necessarily entertain the idea that there may be other ways to do it. And those other ways aren't necessarily better or worse. They're just different. And then we have this desire to be liked. And in the desire to be liked, we look at this so much as a failing of ours. And that's why I called it what it was. That's why I put it, it's a desire to be liked. Yes, yes, we want to be respected. We want to be trusted. We want to have good, strong relationships. But truly, at our core, we want to be liked. And that's okay. It's not a failing, it's a strength. Because we are, innately, women are very strong connectors, builders of relationships. It's how we go about the wanting to be liked, the wanting to be respected. It's how we go about it that can be potentially harmful or detrimental to our careers, to our standings, to our relationships. And so that's the piece I want to kind of tease out. When we worry about being liked to the point that we're trying to figure out what everyone wants from us, we're putting our energy and our focus on what everybody else wants from us, and then we're trying to mold to that, we're draining our energy. And we're draining it not on the leadership drivers that are going to help us do what we want to do and achieve what we want to achieve, but on the reactive patterns that say, I want to be liked, and for me to be liked, they have to be happy. If you're happy, I'm happy, right? That model. So we alter our decisions about what we do or how we do it, not because it's the best way to achieve the goal, but because we want to be liked. So, and the converse of that, right? The converse of that is, if I don't do things their way, then I'll be labeled as either not cooperative or, heaven forbid, a bitch. Excuse the language. Facebook doesn't like swearing, so I try not to swear too much. A witch. We get that label, and then that hurts our career. And so we really do struggle with this whole desire to be nice. We really do struggle with what does that mean? What does that look like? How do I do this? How do I do this? And I've done this. Like I have all the things I just talked about in terms of approaching the wrong way, how to show up as a leader, and how to channel my focus and my energy, and what I want to do to be liked. Like, I've made all these mistakes, and probably the one that stands out the most, and I think I may have shared this before. So for those of you who have been on Training Tuesday before, bear with me. You know this story, but you're going to hear it again. And hey, Jackie, I'm glad to see you've joined us. Probably, I think it was the first time I was in a vice president position, a VP position. I was asked to put together an annual marketing plan. It was my first time doing it. It was my first time being responsible for the whole picture. And I was a little bit panicked because up until this point, I had owned pieces of a plan. I'd worked on a marketing plan, but it was always kind of a group exercise, and I was not the one responsible for saying, this is the plan, and this is how it's going to work, and this is why it's going to work, and yes, I'm committed to this. I was just committed to my part. And I was a new vice president. I was a woman. I was young, and I was in a male-dominated industry. I'm in technology. And I was literally going to be walking into a room full of men to present my plan. Every single one of these men were older than me, had been in the tech industry longer than me. And I carried with me all the baggage that goes along with that. That was my baggage, not their baggage. Not their fault. They were born middle-aged white men. Right? Not their fault. But I certainly had a lot of baggage in my head around what that meant and who I needed to be an effective leader in a room full of men who were older than me, who were more experienced than me, and who certainly had a certain way or personality around how they led. And I was new to this. So I worked on this presentation for weeks, and I did all the things. I asked every single one of them. I asked the CEO, what do you want to see in this plan? I asked the head of sales, what needs to happen in this plan? What are the things your sales teams want me to do? I asked the head of operations, what needs to happen in this plan, right? How do I support our overall targets? I asked the CFO, how much money can I spend? I asked them all these questions about what my plan should look like. And then I spent hours trying to take all their feedback to cram it into a single marketing plan and trying to figure out how I was meeting all their different goals and KPIs, right? All their key performance indicators. And how do I get this done in a way that not only meets the goals, but meets all their goals and makes them all happy, right? Makes them all say, She's the market. She was the right choice for this marketing job. And so by the time the meeting came around, I'm exhausted because I put myself in this bubble of doing this plan myself, because my other misconception was I'm the marketing leader. I should know how to do this. I should know how to do this, and I should sit down and do this myself, and I don't need help from anybody because I'm the leader. If I were not capable of doing this, they wouldn't have hired me, and to show them I'm capable of doing this, I can't ask for help. Because if I ask for help, or if I ask other people to have input, I'm going to look like I'm not sure. I'm insecure. I don't know what I'm doing. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't experienced enough to take on this job. So I siloed myself by myself for a couple of weeks, and I nose to the grindstone, worked on this plan, cobbling all these things together with all these different inputs, fitting in these different visions of things. And I was not more than 10 minutes into my presentation when the CEO said to me, so I see where you're going, but what I don't see is what's your vision. And I was like, oh, well, what is my vision? And here's what happened when he asked that question, what's your vision? I tap danced. Like for a good couple minutes, I talked around all these different pieces of visions that I got from all these different men and was trying to cobble them together into comprehensible sentences to make it sound like I had a vision. But what happened as I was talking was, in my head, I was like, holy crap. What is my vision? Like, it really hit me at what is my part of this plan? Where is my expertise? Where are the pieces of things that I wanted to test, that I wanted to innovate on, that I wanted to do differently this time around? Because coming into this role, I saw these things that I could do. But once I was in the job, I was so busy trying to make sure that I earned the job, that I proved to them that I could do the job, that I was trying to make them happy. I didn't put in a vision of my own. I didn't put in the vision of my team. I cobbled together a plan based on 6 men, none of whom were marketers. None of them. Right? But my plan was all about what they thought they wanted to see based on their own goals and their own KPIs, which were not mine. So I didn't ask for help, and I didn't have that great a plan, and they basically made me go back and rework it and do it again, and they were right to make me do that. It was a huge learning lesson. And here's the other thing I walked away from. Nobody, not a single one of them, liked me any better for having put together a plan that met their needs. They didn't think, well, maybe it wasn't a great marketing plan, but at least she hit my goals. They didn't think I was any smarter. Now, to my benefit, they knew that I was somewhat inexperienced, and they didn't think I was stupid. So there's a plus. And they sent me back and said, we want to see this with your vision in mind. And I had, I think, 3 days to turn that piece around of my version with my vision. So my question for you ladies in the chat, any pieces of that story sound familiar? Any pieces of any of this that I'm talking about in terms of how do we lead, and how do we lead with our vision? How do we respond or react to others and what we think they want from us? Any of this sound familiar at all? You can just drop a Y in the chat. You can share what's familiar, what's not. Because where I'm trying to get through here is that we all have our people-pleasing stories. We all have our somewhat misguided vision of what leadership is and who we think we have to be. And breaking down these patterns isn't easy. In fact, I have a 6-week course that breaks this down. So we're not going to break it down in 30 minutes. But I am tonight, what I want to give you is the highlights of the formula that we go through and why this is so important. You want to be a powerful leader. You want to stand up for what you need to get accomplished, your vision, your way, which means you need to have boundaries to get that done. And you want to do it with compassion and kindness so that you're not eroding relationships at the same time. And it feels like such a big thing to do, but the truth is those components are all interconnected. And once you have clarity on one, it's like a domino effect. It impacts everything else. And if you don't have that clarity on the one, we're going to start with the one, just give me a minute. But if you don't have the clarity on the one, you don't get the rest of the domino effect. You don't get it. So it starts with the most important thing. And what we said was the most important thing is, who do you want to be as a leader? Who do you want to be as a leader? So this is the part where I said, if you've got paper and pencil, write the questions down, because these are the questions you need to answer and get clear on for the whole rest of this formula to move you into a leadership position where you're leading and you're building and you're growing, and you're not forcing yourself into some other model or some other vision of leadership that isn't aligned with you, or not falling back into patterns that really aren't going to serve you as a leader, and they're going to limit your opportunities and your abilities to really grow and make impact and change. So what does it mean to be a leader to you? Your definition of a leader. And what I want you to get very specific on, what are the values, the characteristics, and the behaviors? Who do you want to be as a leader? And if you have a person in mind who you follow, who you read, who epitomizes those characteristics and those behaviors, keep them in mind. Keep them in mind, but write it down and get clear. If you do not know who the leader vision, right, the leadership version of you is, if you don't know who that person is, if you aren't clear on how that person shows up in the world, the rest of it won't follow. You won't get there, because you'll be constantly reacting and shifting and molding yourself to fit what you think other people want, not the vision of who you want to be. And the core of who we want to be is key to everything. It is key to everything. It's key to our professional life, our career trajectory, how fast we go, how far we go, the risks we choose to take. It's also the key to all of our personal relationships. Who are we? So what does it mean to you to be a leader, and who is that person? Describe that person. Because it's not cookie cutter. I can give you the broad strokes, right? I can give you the broad strokes of leaders have big ideas and they work with teams to make those ideas real. Yes, they do. Leaders inspire other people. They inspire other people with their ideas and they give them direction to grow in. Yes, they do. Leaders motivate other people to take actions and to do things to be a better version of themselves. Yes, they do. Leaders make an impact. Yes, they do. All true and all very vague. Very vague. Who are you? What motivates you? There's no wrong answer to that. What is your version of leadership? Anna, I love that you wrote servant leadership. That is absolutely a style of leadership, right? What is your priority in leadership? You guys have heard me talk about before, we have different leadership styles. We have some leadership styles that are very much a servant leadership style. I'm here to help you. If you win, I win. That is a very powerful leadership style. And if that is yours, then that is one you can absolutely run with, as long as you have the awareness of where the pitfalls are. Another leadership style is that of the builder and the grower, right? The entrepreneur who goes out and sees things and says, I can put these things together and I can make something really cool out of this, right? Let me find the opportunities, right? The opportunistic leader, let me find the opportunities, and they get everybody excited because they see them with the building blocks. Other version of leadership would be the creative genius, the visionary who sees something that's 10 years out. And that's what they're aiming for, and they're inspiring you with their long-term vision. So there's all different styles of leadership. Who do you want to be as a leader? The more specific about who you want to be, then you can identify, and this is domino number 2. What do you need to do? What do you need to do? This is where we make the conscious choice. Where do we focus our attention and our energy? What are our priorities? What do you need to do for you to lead your way? So go get your bracelet of I'm going to use Anna, you as an example. What would Anna do? When we have an opportunity to lead and show up, and every single day, if we use Anna in her role as servant leader, and she has a vision of who she is and how she shows up as the servant leader, then every day she's saying, What does this servant leader do? What choices do they make? What decisions do they make? How do they spend their time and their energy? And here's what I want you to think about. What we get lost in, because we're really good at it. We're trained to do this. As women, we are trained and raised in this pattern. We're very good at this. If you're a mother, you happen to be extra good at this because you're fighting it on a different level. We are amazing firefighters. We can put out fires everywhere all the time. If our energy is always focused on putting out the fires, then it's not focused on that big project or that big initiative or that big goal that's actually going to make the impact. Firefighting does not make an impact. Firefighting is what we do when we fall into patterns where we're comfortable. Firefighting is what we do when other people are relying on us to help them solve their problems. Firefighting is pretty reactionary most of the time. And I guarantee you that for those of you who spend your days, oh, I had to put out this fire and that fire, I guarantee you at least 60%, if not more, of those fires are not your fires to fight. And they're not a priority. They're urgent to somebody. But if they're not urgent to your vision, to who you are as a leader, and to that big, hairy, audacious goal you want to achieve in your leadership, not a priority. We don't put on our resumes fighting fires. It's not a skill we get promoted for. It's not a skill we get a raise for. It's not a skill we change careers on. When you know who you want to be as a leader, you know the impact you want to make, you know the things you have to do. Staying focused on what we have to do is where that whole boundary part comes in. Because listen, we cannot control and we cannot stop the chaos that life throws at us. Always. There is always going to be an emergency. There is always going to be an unexpected turn in the road. Always. That's life. We can choose and we can control where we're going to focus our time and energy. How are we going to navigate through that? And are we going to navigate through it by putting out all the little fires? Or are we going to say, I'm going to walk right past these little fires and I'm aiming right towards the goal, right towards the place where my focus belongs? If you are clear on what is important for you to focus on, right? This long-term, this bigger project, this goal is clear to me. If I'm clear on what that is, then what I need to do becomes clear. So first is clear on who I am. Second is clear on what I need to do. If I'm clear on what I need to do, then I know how I need to spend my time. If I'm clear on how I need to spend my time, then I'm pretty clear on what I say yes to and what I say no to when it comes to how I spend my time. If I am not clear on what is a yes and what is a no and how I am spending my time, then I am not clear on my priorities and my boundaries and the kind of leader I want to be. We are not leading when we allow ourselves to be the victim or to be reactive to other people's priorities, other people's schedules, other people's fires. And I know we have that idea of, if I don't help out everybody else, I will be seen as not helpful. I will be seen as not committed. That falls into this desire we have to be liked, right? I won't be liked. I won't be seen as helpful. I won't be seen as nice if I don't follow through helping everybody else do their job. And this is where we have to start separating out how. How do we follow through with that compassionate side? With I'm going to be liked. I'm going to be helpful. I'm going to be supportive. I'm also going to be focused on my goals. I'm also going to be focused on helping the bigger picture, move the bigger projects, make the bigger impact. The weakness in wanting to be liked is when we believe that we have to make everyone else happy in order to be liked. When we believe that we don't have value unless everybody likes us. So we cater to other people's priorities. We spend time, spend our energy, spend our focus meeting other people where they're at. We carry their baggage. Right? Somebody else is struggling, and sure, it might impact your team. It might not, but they know you can help them. They know you know what to do. You know what to do. You know you'll be their hero if you make them happy. But is that truly your priority in that moment? That's the question a leader has to ask herself. What is my priority right now? What is the best thing I can do for me right now? And I guarantee you, 95% of the time, it's not to carry the other person's baggage. I heard a great phrase this weekend. I'm going to use it all the time now, so get used to it. Carry on baggage only, and you carry your own. Carry on baggage only, and you carry on. We all have baggage. We all have the little gremlin voice that tells us we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, blah, blah, blah. We all have that. We all have the imposter syndrome that says, you can't do this, you're not ready for this, that's too big of a risk. We all have it. That's my baggage. Like I said earlier, walking into a room full of 6 white men. My baggage in my head, interpreting what that means, how they think about me, what I need to do to show that, to prove to them that I can meet them. None of them set those expectations on me. I did that. My baggage. It was not their responsibility to carry that baggage for me, and nor did they. Not a single one of them said, Natalie, we understand that you're the only woman in the room. Let us make you more comfortable and let us figure out how we do that. Now, it might have been nice if they did, but they didn't, and it wasn't their job. Their job and my job was, how do we support this company and the company mission, and how do we hit these goals? That's what we were there for. So how do we make wanting to be liked a strength and not a weakness? The innate strength we have as women is in that nurturing gene that comes from the caveman days when we were the gatherers and not the hunters. When our responsibility was hearth, home, gathering the berries, raising the family, building the community. My God, we're so good at this. It's natural to us. That's why we naturally want to reach out and help others. We can use that skill and that talent we have to build connection with others. Build connections with your allies and your influencers who can help you in your career, in your projects, who can help you with you, right? This is what coaches are for. It's to build a connection to say, okay, let's give you the mind space for you to achieve your goals. You use your innate ability to connect with others, to nurture with others, to build trust with your teams. Because when you connect with your team, when you show them that you're not just a great visionary boss, but that you're also fallible, that you need help, that you value their opinions, what happens? You build trust. And trust is a two-way street. And as I think it was Anna who said earlier, you delegate. You trust them to do their job. They trust you that you're leading them down the right path. You trust them they're going to get the job done, even if their way isn't quite your way. Spend your energy as a leader getting to know your team and connect with your team. And by team, I don't just mean the people working on your team underneath you. I mean your peers, and I mean the people above you. They're all members of your team because you're all working from the same goal. How do you do this? You speak from a place of authenticity. When we are authentic, the word integrity came up earlier. I think Joyce used it. When we are in alignment with who we are as the leader we want to be, we know who we want to be, we speak from that voice. You know it. You know when somebody is speaking to you authentically versus when they're putting on a little show, playing nice as opposed to actually being nice. So we know this, we feel this. And when we feel that energy of somebody being authentic, it builds compassion, it builds kindness, it builds connection. So that when you're in a moment where you have to give feedback, where you're giving pushback, where there's a controversy, there's a disagreement, you can still speak from that authentic voice. And what happens is they know who you are, so they know what you stand for. Therefore, they know where you're coming from. Because your feedback or your pushback or your disagreement, it isn't about them as an individual. It's about the mission or the goals or the project. It's not personal. When we spend so much time trying, and energy and focus, trying to please somebody and make them happy, we're trying to make them happy. We're not trying to achieve a goal. We're carrying their baggage and we're fulfilling an emotional void. You just made it personal. It's personal. I'm personally trying to make them happy. I want them in a better mood so that I can get on with my day. Not, I want to achieve this goal because if we achieve this goal, everybody's happy and everybody wins, right? Different focus, not personal. Your disagreement with someone, with their approach, with their theory, with their project, it's not about them as the individual. It's about how we reach a goal. So you're not against someone. You are pro the mission, the outcome, the goals, the vision. So when we align around priorities and goals, if we're all on the same page about what it is we need to achieve, the only thing that's debatable is the how we get there. And again, that's not personal, that's opinions. Teams should all have the same goals. Your boss's goals should align with yours, should align with the rest of the teams. This does not come down then to individual preference or pandering to personalities. This comes down to what's the best and most effective way to move forward. If there are conflicting goals, somebody needs to raise their hand and have that conversation. That needs to be highlighted. Because if you have conflicting goals, you can't get alignment. And it's hard to lead from a place where there isn't alignment. So your ability to build connection, right? We were just talking about people pleasing, right? Your ability to build connection with other people's, plus your clear vision, the who you are as a leader, that's what generates inspiration and motivation. Your authenticity, integrity with your voice and who you are as a leader, plus your trust in other people, you building out that connection, is what drives motivation and innovation. Innovation comes up when we go outside the box, which is where delegation happens. Opening up your mind to other ways of doing things and other points of views. So remember that you are not responsible for other people's baggage. Carry on baggage only. Carry your own baggage. You are responsible for being the leader you want to be. So know, right? First of all, know who you are as a leader, who you want to be. Be that person. And if you know who you are and you be that person, you will have all the things that you are looking for in your leadership. And it might not come right away. You might have to know who that is and be that person for a while before the results happen, but the results will happen. And the results come down to respect, achievement, authenticity, all the things when you think about being a powerful leader, right? Integrity, trust, all of that happens. But you have to know who you are, and then you have to go do the things. So I saw a couple things pop in here. So I know we're running a little over, ladies. Give me half a minute. What does a servant leader do? Understanding the importance of being empathetic and understanding bigger picture, having a balance. Yeah. The servant leader is the leader who believes. Here's the core of servant leadership, Anna, is as a servant, when we're in a servant leader mindset, and all of us have some component of this. It may not be our leading strength as a leader. For some of you it is, and for some of you it may not be. But we all have this component. And what this component of servant leadership says is, if we all succeed, if everybody on the team succeeds, the project succeeds. So the mindset is people first. If I can make sure that all the people on my team have what they need to do their job and do it well, if I make sure that they have the right tools at their fingertips, the right information available to them, the right vision and emotional support that they need to get through their day, if I can make sure they have all those things, they're going to be happy, they're going to be productive, and being happy and productive means they'll hit their goal. Servant leadership is about serving people. It's about building community. And through serving people and serving community, we hit our goals. That's the tie, right? It's about a bigger picture and a bigger community. It is not about I or me or self. Now I'm going to flip that for half a second just so that you see the difference is that some leaders, they're not so focused on building teams and community. And it doesn't mean that they don't. It means their focus, though, is on, say, the goal, achieving something, achievement. So a lot of times leaders with servant leadership are the leaders of not-for-profit organizations, philanthropic organizations, community groups and organizations. They're in public service, they're in healthcare, right? In any arena where their broader mission is a broader community focus. Whereas goal-oriented leaders, They build great teams, but they build great teams through the shared vision and the shared goal. They're not necessarily taking care of everybody's needs in that nurturing way, but they're saying, hey, get excited about this thing we could do over here, because wouldn't that be amazing? Let's go do that thing. And their drivers are getting the job done. So one isn't better or worse than the other. It's different ways of looking at how we solve problems. And Jackie said, raising your hand is hard when there's a lack of alignment. Absolutely, it's hard. But this is why the confidence in who you want to show up as a leader. Do you want to be the kind of leader that's willing to raise her hand and say, hey, we've got a gap here? Because you can raise your hand and you can flag the gap and still be kind and still be respected and respectful. And it is hard and it takes practice. But this is why the domino effect is first be clear. Be clear on who it is you want to be. Do the things that that leader does. So get the bracelet of what would whoever your leader is, right? The original bracelet was what would Jesus do, right? But they've made them for all kinds of things. Fill in the blank for you. Who's the leader you want to be? What would this person do? And you make your decisions for where you focus your energy and the actions you take based on that. If you do that, if you do those first two things, the whole being liked, the way we behave when we hold our boundaries, because we know what our boundaries are, it all falls into place. So I'm going to thank you ladies for staying with me a little late tonight. I appreciate that. But be, do, and then you will have, right? Be the leader, do the things, and the rest of it comes. That's the most important part. So if you are struggling with the clarity around who you want to be or what it is you have to do, I'm going to invite you to do that Dirty Girl Mini Dig, 15-minute free coaching call. We can start digging into this. Like I said, this whole model, I've got a 6-week course built on this whole model of how we realize this. So we're not solving the problem in what is now 45 minutes tonight instead of 30. And we won't solve it in 15 minutes, but we will get you closer. And that's the key. We will get you a little bit closer to your goal. And it's one step at a time. One step at a time is how we're successful. I want to do one more announcement. So if you would like to do the Dirty Girl Mini Dig, if you'd like to do the free 15-minute coaching call where we're just focused on you for 15 minutes and giving you one step forward, drop the word dig in the comments. And I will reach out to you for that. Last announcement is that mark your calendars for Thursday, November 10th. I'm going to do a workshop. So it's going to be more interactive, going to be a lot more questions and answers going on. So we'll have a little more time. It'll likely be more like 90 minutes to 2 hours. But it's a workshop on how do we manage work-life balance. What are some of the things we need to think about and put in place? So it'll be a combination of sort of how we're thinking about things and actual tools for how do we do the things so that we have that greater sense of work-life balance. And work-life balance is like leadership. It means something different to each of you. But this is going to be a workshop, not your typical masterclass, but actually a little more interactive, a lot more interactive. We're going to be doing the work as we go. So mark your calendars for November 10th. I'm going to try to get a posting out tomorrow night. I'm hoping by tomorrow night I'll have it done. No later than Thursday to remind you guys. But you guys get the early notice because you're here. All right. November 10th is the workshop. You will get more notice on that, on work-life balance. The word dig in the comments if you'd like to do the free 15-minute coaching call. I call it a Dirty Girl Mini Dig, but it's 15 minutes focused on you. And other than that, have a fabulous Tuesday night, and I will see you ladies next week.